Summary of The Shining by Stephen King. Jack Torrance thinks Stuart Ullman to be a officious little prick as he looks over the desk at him. But to be fair, Jack probably wouldn't hate anyone if the job interview went badly. Jack is an alcoholic who lost his temper at work in Vermont and was fired. Ullman knows all about Jack's past and would never hire Jack as the winter caretaker of the Overlook Hotel if it weren't for Al Shockley, Jack's friend and an important member of the board of directors. Ullman is told by Jack that he won't be sorry. Jack hasn't had a drink in more than a year, and he is excited to spend the winter at the hotel with his wife Wendy and their 5-year-old son Danny. Jack will also have time to work on the show he's writing. Ullman doesn't seem to be persuaded, so he tells Jack about Grady, the housekeeper who worked last winter. Grady was drunk, and he lost it at the hotel with his wife, 2 young girls, and himself. He killed them all and himself. Being alone can be bad for you, Ullman tells Jack as he leads him to the basement to meet Watson, the repair worker. The furnace and boiler are being shown to Jack by Watson. Jack thinks about what Ullman said about losing his anger. A few years ago, Jack lost it with Danny because Danny went into Jack's study and poured beer all over his play. Jack was so drunk that he grabbed Danny by the arm and meant to spank him, but instead he broke Danny's arm. The sound of Watson's voice wakes Jack up from his thoughts. Jack is told to check the boiler twice a day. Watson says the temperature creeps and it doesn't turn off by itself. If you don't hit the stopper every so often, the gauge will keep going up. Holmes tells Jack that his family will wake up on the fucking moon if he doesn't check the boiler. Back at the Torrances' apartment in Boulder, Colorado, Danny waits for Jack to come back by sitting on the curb. Wendy goes outside to tell Danny that his dad won't be home for a long time, but Danny doesn't want to go inside. Dan asks Jack why he lost his job in Stovington when Wendy sits down next to him. Wendy says that Jack was the leader of the debate team. When he had to kick a student, George Hatfield, off the team, Jack found George cutting the tires on their old Volkswagen. George was cutting tires, so Jack hit him, Wendy tells Danny. The school then told Jack they didn't want him to teach there anymore. John asks Wendy if Jack hurt George the same way he hurt John. Wendy says it was something like that. Danny sits outside and thinks about his parents while Wendy leaves him. He knows many things about them and knows that his mom is crying inside. Danny has tried to describe Tony to his parents as his imaginary friend and to tell them that he can see their thoughts, but they don't believe him. As Danny sits on the ground, he thinks about Jack and starts to hear Jack's words in his head. Dan hears Tony calling his name out of the blue and can just barely make out Tony in the distance. Danny imagines that he is in a room with lots of snow outside the windows when he hears Tony's words. A mirror with the word Redrum written on it can be seen, and Danny can hear it crash and a person calling out, "Come out. You little shit, come out. Do what you need to do." Nick is in a hallway with bright blue and black rugs as the room fades. A dark figure with a roquet mallet is after him, and Danny begs Tony to let him go. When Danny looks up from the curb, he sees Jack coming up behind him in the Volkswagen. Dan sees a mallet on the front seat as Jack pulls up to the curb. When he blinks, the mallet turns out to be a shopping bag. They get to the hotel and meet Dick Halloran, who cooks at the Overlook. Halloran is a nice man who is about 60 years old. He shows Wendy around the kitchen and where to find food and other supplies. Now that they are alone, Halloran tells Danny that he knows he has a knack. Danny agrees to help him carry his bags to his car. She says it's shining, and Danny shines brighter than anyone else she's ever met. Daniel is told by Halloran to stay away from room 217 because he will see scary things in the hotel. He tells Danny that he can always call out to him in his mind if he needs him. Because Danny's shine is so strong, Halloran will probably be able to hear it in Florida, where he works when the season is over. Danny goes back inside, and Mr. Ullman shows the Torrances around the hotel. They go right by room 217 and don't stop. But when they get to the 3rd floor and go into the presidential suite, Danny can see blood all over the walls. Danny thinks to himself, this must be what Halloran really meant. Mr. Ullman takes them back downstairs, where his own bags are already waiting. The guests have all left, and the rest of the team has also left. As soon as Ullman drives off, the Torrances are by themselves. The Torrances get used to living at the Overlook right away. Jack is happy with the boring and steady work of taking care of the hotel, and Wendy is glad that Jack isn't drinking. It's been a long time since they were this happy, but Danny keeps seeing red rum written on the mirrors. When Jack checks the boiler one day in the basement, he finds a scrapbook. The scrapbook is full of press clippings and has all the background of the hotel. Dan stands outside of room 217 while Jack reads it. Even though he has the skeleton key, he doesn't open the door. Danny instead turns around and goes down the bright blue and black carpet that runs along the hallway. After a few days, Jack trims the animal topiaries in front of the hotel while Wendy and Danny go into the nearby town to do some early Christmas shopping. The roads will be closed when it snows, so they won't be able to get down the mountain. Jack cuts back the huge lion-shaped bushes around the hotel and is sure he sees them move. He thinks he is crazy. After a few weeks, Danny finally gets the nerve to go into room 217. He opens the door to the bathroom and finds the ghost of Mrs. Massey, the woman who killed herself in the room, in the bathtub. She runs after Danny and grabs him around the neck. He runs out the door and down to the hallway. Danny has a badly hurt neck when he finds Wendy and Jack. He is going crazy. Wendy is wary of Jack because she thinks he has hurt Danny again. Danny tells them all about the ghost in room 217. Wendy wants to take Danny to the doctor down the mountain, but the roads are closed because of the snow. She tells Jack that there is a sled in the shed. He goes outside to check it out, getting madder at Wendy. On the way to the shed, he thinks about hitting her and killing her. Then he takes the snowmobile's engine apart. Danny goes to play in the snow near the animal sculptures while this is going on. As he digs in the snow, he suddenly sees the ghost of a young boy. Animal-shaped planters start to chase Danny as he runs. Danny just makes it to the front door in time and starts crying. If he tells his parents what happened, Jack will say that he is making things up. Danny doesn't get it. Danny tells Jack that he knows what he went through with the topiaries, and Jack hits him in the face. Wendy is very angry, and Jack feels bad about what he did right away. After some time, Danny stands in the hotel hall in front of the clock on the fireplace. I don't know why, but Danny wins the clock and has a vision of red rum. Dan feels like he needs to act quickly, so he sends a mental message to Halloran in Florida. Jack has been going down to the basement more and more, and Danny can tell that his dad is changing and going crazy. While this is going on, Jack goes into the bar at the hotel and thinks it's packed. Lloyd, who works behind the bar, makes gin martinis, which Jack drinks quickly. Grady is also there, and he tells Jack that Wendy and Danny should be punished and killed with the club. Jack trips and hits his head because he has had too many martinis. Wendy is pulling him into the locked closet in the kitchen when he wakes up. She needs some time to think about what to do because Jack has become dangerous. The phones aren't working because of the snowstorm, and Jack said the sled won't start, so she can't quickly get help. Wendy and Danny hear Jack scream in the middle of the night until they hear words and Jack stops. Grady shows up outside the closet door in the kitchen and lets Jack out. Grady says Jack needs to punish Wendy and Danny now. Wendy goes to check on Jack because she thinks he is not in the closet. The closet door is wide open in the kitchen, but Jack is nowhere to be found. There is a clock in the hall that she can hear as she sneaks around the hotel with a knife. Jack comes out of the darkness with the roquet mallet in his hand. He follows Wendy and catches her on the stairs. She gets hit over and over with the hammer, which breaks her ribs. Wendy pulls out the knife and stabs him. Wendy runs back to the room where she left Danny, but he is not there. He just rolled down the stairs. She locks herself in the bathroom because she can hear Jack coming down the hall. Outside, Wendy can hear the sound of a snowmobile. Jack starts to hit the door with the hammer. Jack stops. Even though he doesn't know how, he has a feeling that it is Halloran. Jack is ready with the club and hits Halloran over the head when he walks into the hallway. Jack leaves Halloran hurt and goes to find Danny. Dan can hear Jack yelling at him to take his medicine and hitting the walls with the club as he runs through the hotel. Jack traps Danny on the 3rd floor when he runs up there. Jack lifts the club to hit Danny, but he stops. Jack drops the mallet and tells Danny to run when Danny sees something change in his eyes. Is it love? Danny runs away while Jack's screams keep going. Wendy finds Halloran on the floor of the hallway, and Danny runs into the room. He yells at them that they need to leave right away because Jack hasn't checked the boiler. She looks at the clock on the wall. There is 1 minute left until midnight. At the same time, Jack is turning on the boiler in the basement. Jack starts to celebrate because he thinks he hit the damper just in time, but then the boiler blows up, engulfing him in flames. Wendy and Danny are dragged out of the burning hotel by Halloran. Dan and Wendy are hurt, but Halloran gets them both on the sled and down the mountain safely. After a few months, Wendy and Danny are taking it easy at a hotel getaway in Maine where Halloran has a job. After what happened at the hotel, they are both mentally and physically getting better. Jack's life insurance has made the future a little less scary. Wendy and Halloran are happy to watch Danny fish from the dock as the afternoon sun goes down.
About the author. Stephen King was born in Portland, Maine, in 1947. King and his brother were raised by their mother alone after their father left when they were very young. King began writing while he was at Lisbon Falls High School in Lisbon Falls, Maine. The first story he sold was to an unofficial magazine in 1965. He finished from high school in 1966. He started right away at the University of Maine in Orono, Maine, and that's where he met Tabitha, the woman who would become his wife. King's daughter was born in 1970, the same year he finished with a Bachelor of Arts in English. In 1971, he married Tabitha. He got a job as a teacher at a public school and kept writing. In 1973, Carrie came out. The book became a huge hit and made King a famous horror author. After Carrie's success, King wrote Salem's Lot in 1975 and The Shining in 1977. He wrote both books while living in Boulder, Colorado for a short time. Over the years, King and his wife had 2 kids. King also kept writing, both under his own name and the name Richard Bachman. King has been a major force in modern horror since the 1970s. He has written 61 novels, 200 short stories, and 6 nonfiction books. A number of his books and short stories have been turned into movies that have won awards. These include The Green Mile, The Shawshank Redemption, Misery, and It. Since the 1970s, King has won many awards and honors. The National Book Foundation gave him the Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters in 2003, and the National Endowment for the Arts gave him the National Medal of Arts in 2015. King lives in Maine with his wife.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.